Yeah, so yeah, I want to know, in the first session you said I shouldn't have played football, I should have just wrestled. I wondered why you said that. It's like,
all right, so I started with football. And then when I was playing football, like I only started in like 6th grade. And then when my freshman year, the wrestling coach came out to our football team and was like, wrestling makes you good at football. And I was like, okay. And he picked other kids to join and none of them joined, but he didn't pick me. And I was like, okay, I'm going to join because I wanted to be good at football. I was a way better wrestler than I was a football player because I'm really like, I had to learn to lift my legs to run. Like I was clumsy and things like that. And then, but wrestling's different, like, because you're kind of stationary and it's like, there's a lot more technique to it kind of. And I was just better at it. That's just the only way I can really put it. But I think like, I always thought like, oh, you know, just having multiple sports is what's going to get me into college, but sports never even worked out for college. You know what I mean? And instead of saying, oh, you know, I'm a really good wrestler, but I did wrestle year round. Like I ended up quitting football for a year to wrestle year round. And then my senior year, I was like, oh, I'm going to go back because, you know, who wants to miss that moment? You know what I mean? A senior year of football, it's your last year. And I pretty much knew at that time I wasn't going to college for wrestling. So.
mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. You said in the first session that you have incorporated a lot of systems in your work. I just wanted to hear like a few examples.
All right. So with this, I was actually thinking about this today because I knew I didn't explain this very well. So when I took over the residential care home that I run right now, I didn't like how it was run when I went in there. So basically, so we get regulations, right? And I kind of threw them out and said, okay, this is how we're going to run it. And this meant like, okay, so we do laundry, we do cooking, med administration, we do recreation and rides and all those kind of things. So basically I just redid everything. Like, and I put like they didn't have a manager in charge. The person who was in my position was the manager, you know, and it's like, no, like there's 22 people who live here all day. You need like managers and things like that. So I set it up like that. And I set up a new recreation thing. COVID made us like have to do a bunch of things, like, but that was like not what that was because we had to, you know, we're a healthcare place. But yeah, so I basically went in and changed it up. And then what happened was, so they come in every couple of years and they give you a grade. The state does it. They come in and say, okay, this is your grade. Growing up, I heard about this and they said, oh, you know, like everybody was getting like 95s and they thought it was a good thing because they passed. So when I went in, I got 100. And that I'm the only person in the state to do that. Like, you know what I mean? So like I put in a good system. I knew like, and it's because I had already, healthcare to me is easier than construction. Construction, at least in healthcare, there's people there who are like really trained in healthcare. And construction, you're often training people to do that stuff. You know what I mean? I don't get as much satisfaction from healthcare, but it's definitely an easier business to run in a way. So I mean, where other people stress out about it, but it's like it's taking care of people, and like the obvious is ways you keep their rooms clean, you set up schedules. It's not hard to do. You know what I mean?
Yes, not hard to do for people of your type, I think. And we will, like, that's one of your superpowers.
I think, I'll be honest, in our last session, I was a little nice because working in healthcare, I've learned to be nice. And that's the truth. I'm not, it's like, I really thought about it. I'm like, okay, like I know empathy. I know how to I teach people empathy. But, and I'd say there's a reason for it. You know what I mean? We work in where I work, it's mental health care. It's not even like sick people, it's mentally ill people. Like we work with like narcissists, psychopaths, borderline personality disorder, bipolar, all those kind of things. So like I have to learn how to act in a way. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think like last session I was showing you more of like my learned behaviors than the truth about it. And I'm not sure what you think of that.
We'll see. I want to ask you how easy it is for you to understand where someone else is coming from.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I don't even like I understand what position people like what where like if I hire an employee, I usually know what's going on in their family life just based on like things they say. Like I kind of understand, okay, this person is going to be an easy employee, this person's going to be difficult, this person I'm going to have to really think about. They're probably going to call out a lot, and it could be that they have kids and they've made it clear like they have these things, you know, going on with their kids and stuff like that. So you don't even like you don't need to tell me most of the time. It's like, yeah, I know what's going on for them. A lot of times, like, and that's like, so when the kid comes to me with a contract, I even know like, hey, he wants to make this kind of money and he wants, and they want, I know more so than what he knows what their customers want in a way. I'm like, this is what your customers want. That's why we're going to do this contract like this. If you send it like this, you're probably not getting that job. But then I tell them like, you got to follow up on these things that you put in there too. You know what I mean? And yeah, and that's kind of how it is. And so I get where people are coming from. I get like what people are doing, and I get where they can fix it. Do you know what I mean? Like I had a architect the other day doing a design, and she said a garage couldn't fit, and then like I looked at it and I'm like, okay, but it'll fit this way, and I just knew like that. I don't know. I knew what people wanted for this design. You know what I mean? So I can figure out how to get it to go. Like it's not that hard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm trying to be a little bit more honest today, like because I think I really did show you like a different side. But
mm-hmm. I forgot the phrase now, but I want to ask you about predictions. Is that something that you regularly make? There was a sentence you just used about, yeah, it's not, yeah, I forgot the sentence now, but yeah, I want to ask you about like, is that something that happens all the time where you go like, oh, this is probably going to work, oh, this is probably not going to work, stuff like that? Like projecting
like
into
I pretty much know what, like even like I told you, like the cryptocurrency thing, like that's an like to other people that like they don't know so much about it, but it is at 30 million users. And when it was at 100,000, people would roll their eyes at me. Now people text me and say, oh, you know, that Pi network that you were in, it's blowing up. And I heard it's going on this thing and that thing. And like, I kind of just have it sitting over there now because it's just collecting these coins. But like everyone's texting me, telling me how good it is. And I'm like, I told you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. Let me see. I want to go in a different direction and ask you, how do you deal with the feeling of failure? So
I teach this to people. It's like, you know, it's going to happen, and you need to overcome it. It is something that it's going to push you. It should push you. Not, I guess it doesn't really for everybody, but it should push you really to do better. It gives you. Like, it's not a bad thing. It sucks. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, okay, like that is how to get better. Like, because if you're failing, that means you're trying something that you're not so good at right now. You know what I mean? You're going to learn a lot from that failure, because to be honest, when you fail, that's when you can kind of look back and say, what did I do wrong? Like, what can I do better next time? You know, honestly, I'm like, not that, like, sometimes when I have to give something up, I feel like I failed. Do you know what I mean? Like, too, it's like, but it's not necessarily like, you got to look at it like, how, like, is it really a failure, or is it just a better decision? And like, kind of like that in a way. But like, I don't like giving up certain things too, but and that those do look like failures because you're not sticking to them in a way, but like at the same time, it might not be a good decision.
Which maps to the struggle of narrowing down that you described, I think. Like, yeah. Cool. How easy is it for you to put your feelings aside when something has to be done?
Yeah, I was gonna tell you about, like, I put that on there too. It's like, I'll be honest, I was the hardest worker for like the longest time. Like, I worked harder than anyone will tell you. Like, and then, but the problem really was like, well, it wasn't even a problem. Like, I decided, okay, I've been doing the work that I've been wanting to do, and I almost didn't like give myself the time to transition in a way. And like, people try to like pull you back on that in a way. They want you to stay where you are, you know what I mean? Because it's normal for them. And it's like, no, like, if I can grow this business and go into different angles with it, like, it's more fun for one. I'm not gonna lie, like, it's definitely fun, but at the same time, it's like, it gives you more to rely on too, like that you can like really keep building and stuff like that.
Yeah, perfect. But I can also use some of what you just said as well later on. Cool. Let me see. Is there anything else? Yeah, I want to ask you if you ever gotten the feedback that you are intimidating from other people.
What was that?
Did you ever get the feedback that you're intimidating from other people?
Yeah, like, yeah, it's without it. Okay, so I used to say like, I'm a really, like, I know I'm a dickhead. Sorry for using that word, but that's what I used to tell people. And then this, one of the kids who worked with me, he goes, "You're really not a dickhead. What you want to be done is what needs to be done." Like, and because you know what I mean? Like, and I was like, okay, I guess that's true. Like,
Yes, yes. And that is the feedback that people of your type often get. And yeah, we will talk about how that is really like a misunderstanding about the type. But yeah, cool. I think that is all. Yes, okay. One more. Do other people ever think they are closer to you than they really are?
I guess they could. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I think when I get mad, people get surprised sometimes. Like when I like, yeah, I think sometimes people will get surprised when like my actual anger comes out because they don't think it's coming. They think they could kind of just do it. You know what I mean? Like, uh, but like they should know because it builds up to it. It's not like it's just all of a sudden. It's like, I told you not to do that or something, and it's like, I don't know. They should get it, but yeah, I don't know.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, these questions are not decisive anymore about the type. That is settled. But it's always interesting for me to, like, since, yeah, your type is one of the ones that shows up most often in these sessions. So it's always good to see, like, there's some answers that are always answered in the same way. And what you said matches that. So yeah, I want to ask before we go to your type, you said you wrote down a few things. Is there anything else you want to mention? You don't have to. It's like, or if there was anything that came up.
I'd rather read them to you so you don't have to tell me my type. No. But no, go ahead.
Okay. Cool. So to do this in 2 steps. So first we'll go through the letters and I will outline what the letters mean again. I mean, you know this stuff, but it's always good like to go through it and see if it resonates. And then also if something doesn't resonate, hopefully the car model will clarify it all. Cool. So the first letter is either E for extrovert or I for introvert. And this is what we see as the real world. Introverts see their inner world as the real world, and extroverts tend to see the outer world as the real world. And the reason why introverts need more alone time is every time they go into the outer world, they have to bring that outer world into alignment with their inner world. And for extroverts, they do have that too to a degree, but they get more energized when they interact with the outside environment. An outside environment means here people, but also like just things in in the outside world. And I do think that you are on the extroverted side. And I want to ask you if that resonates in the way that I explained.
I know I can be. It would really matter the other type, the other letters too. It really would. What the other letters come, because like I know how they interact too. Like I know like the temperaments. So it's like if depends, I guess. What else is there?
Cool. Yeah, the car model will clarify it, I think. Yes. So the second letter is how we learn new information. Sensors learn new information first and foremost via the things you can sense with your 5 senses. And intuitives do what is called abstract pattern recognition. So they learn things first and foremost. Yeah, they learn by seeing behind the curtain. Type is one example. Our type is not like printed on our foreheads. It's like looking at the patterns. And again, like it's a spectrum, but everyone has a preference. I do think that you are on the intuitive side. So, and I think that is, I want to check if that resonates with you, but I do think it does, right? Like you didn't have any doubt that you were an intuitive.
Yeah, I mean, like most people would probably say that. I say it, so yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, the third letter was the easiest. So it's either T for thinking or F for feeling. And yeah, when I say easiest, I mean, our process is going through the cognitive functions, but it was the thing that stood out strongest to me. So let me first explain it. Like this is how we make decisions. Thinkers make decisions first and foremost based on logical criteria, and feelers make decisions based more on not illogical criteria. I almost said illogical, but feelers, for them, the personal, the human element is like when they make decisions, that's like the tendency. And again, it's a spectrum. All thinkers feel and all feelers think, but I do think that you are strongly thinking side of things.
Oh, you're trying to scare me, aren't you?
Like you are definitely a thinking type. I heard that throughout the session, and yeah, we will talk a bit more about that in the car model, since you are leading with a thinking function, which already gives away your full type, I think, since if you are leading with a thinking function, then you have to be a judging type. And let me first explain the letter. It's the most commonly misunderstood. So perceiving and judging. And this is which world do we bring order into? Perceivers tend to bring order into their inner world, and they do that so that they can be free in the outside world. And judges tend to bring order into the outer world, and they do that to be free in their inner world. And I do think that you are a judging type, although, yeah, that's something we can talk about with the car model. With your tertiary function being extroverted sensing, there's a strong need for freedom as well. But when it comes down to what world do you organize, I do think that you bring order into the outer world. And you do that so that you can be free in your inner world, future pace. And yeah, so that's the 4 letters. And that's, yeah, I don't have much doubt that your type is ENTJ. Which is interesting that you've been visually like that. The ESFP was the type that I gave like a 5% chance, but yeah, let's go to the car model, and then hopefully everything will become clear. Yeah, do you have any questions so far? Probably a little bit of confusion.
No, because I always, it's interesting because I've always talked about, I've worked on my shadow. So if I was an INTP, I was like, oh, I did my shadow work for ENTJ. You know what I mean? So it's not so crazy to say, oh no, maybe it's the opposite way around for me too. You know, I know. So no, it's not like so far off in a way. And like I said, when I talked to INTPs, I was like, these people aren't like me. And then I saw Antonia do like an NE blast the other day, and I was like, I get maybe I'm an INTP, but what she did isn't what I would do exactly. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
So I mean, yeah, I wasn't like coming in here expecting to be INTP, to be honest with you. I just didn't want it to be ESFP because I was like, that's gonna like destroy me, kind of. Because I know that's not true. It's like I wish sometimes that I had like a stronger FI like that in a way, but like it's just not the truth. Like
yes, and those two types are actually the ones that show up most. So to these sessions, ENTJ. So I have like a huge data set to work with and to see where on the spectrum you land. And I do think that you're clearly skewing towards ENTJ.
I met an ESFP that you had typed. What was his name? I forgot. But you had typed him, and he was like, and because we were doing the Q&A, and he was in my group, and I told him, oh yeah, I'm getting typed through Personality Hacker, and he's like, oh yeah, I got typed through Klaus, and he said that his was really quick. But when I talked to him, I was like, I'm not an ESFP. Like,
was it Kevin?
Yes, that guy.
Yeah, when you said that, yeah, cool. So let's go into the car model. You do know a lot about that already. I don't know if you want to write it down. I always normally, yeah, write down stuff alongside when I explain it. But I mean, you don't have. You can do as you want. You can just listen, or yeah, and you can also chime in when something resonates or doesn't resonate. So, as you know, it's a car, and on the left side of the car is the driver. And for you, that driver is called effectiveness or extroverted thinking. And this function is very good at getting things done. Actually, earlier you said, I worked harder than anyone would tell you. And I actually believed you. Like it's like, there's types who say that, but it's like not really true. And there's types who often don't even realize how much they are doing it. Like, since it's on the left side of the car, it's on the unconscious side. So there's a lot of TE drivers who like think they're not getting enough done, but that's not because they don't get enough done. It's because there's always more to be done. And that's why it's called effectiveness. It's like, it's really being focused on getting everyone on board and then achieving stuff together. Like what you said about, what was it? Like the question about like if people get intimidated, that's just the focus of wanting to get stuff done and like helping people. And that's something you talked about a lot. Like you talked about helping your wife with growing a business when she didn't even know that she had the skills for it. Like you said.
And she's a really, you know, it's funny, she's an ENFJ. I'm pretty positive. And it is funny. So yeah.
Yeah, so, and there's like, yeah, there's a focus on getting everyone. That's also what makes ENTJs like very good leaders. And you can, I don't know if I didn't ask you specifically, but it's often ENTJs are put into positions of leadership because other people can feel like they are in tune with what the group not needs, like for harmony. It's like on a thinking level. Like when you rewatch this,
what's the best thing to do at the present moment, even kind of in a sense, like what needs to be done and actually getting it done in a way. You know, I get it. Yeah.
Yes, and that's the TE working with the SE. We'll get there, like the 10-year-old, when TE and SE work together. It's like the focus is on what needs to get done right now. And yeah, let me see what else. Yes, you said in the first session, you said you're not afraid of being in command, and most people are afraid of that. This function is also very good at understanding people's skill levels. Actually, and you talked about that quite a bit, like there's not many people who actually want to be in command, seeing when other people are good at something. And yeah, that's your superpower. And yeah, it's clear to me that you're not leading with TI. Like TI, the focus is also on the thinking side, but it's more like making sense of things without necessarily wanting it to, like, without getting things done immediately. Like the focus with extroverted thinking is really, that's why it's called extroverted thinking. It's like a quicker function in achieving things. There's actually even a phrase that is often used. I mean, we have to be cautious with phrases, but if you rewatch the session, it's like 10 or 20 times you say, you know what I mean. Like, it's really important to, on a thinking level, get other people on board with where you are. And that's actually why ENTJs and ESTJs are so good with leading groups, because they think for themselves, but they are also very in tune with what other people think. That's why it's called extroverted thinking. Like, extroverted feeling is very good with like being in tune with what other people feel, and extroverted thinking is very good at being in tune with what other people think and want. And that's what, that's what stood out to me throughout the session. I mean, I have more examples, but yeah, I want to hear from you if that resonates. Like,
no, it even does, because like when I open my business, I like to like give it a name that's like that, like is gonna get people's like to want to use it. Like one of my construction companies was Simple Solutions, so it's like a catchy name where like somebody's gonna be like, oh, we're gonna use them, you know what I mean, and things like that. So yeah.
Yes, so that's your driver function, and then next to the driver is the co-pilot of, now I lost it, introverted intuition or perspectives.
This one you'll have to explain to me more.
Yes, so this function is very good at being in tune with other people, but not on a like, it's very good at getting into other people's perspectives, as the name says. So it's very good at understanding where people are coming from. It's very good at, and from you, it's like, it's taking a meta view, and it's also taking a view into the future. Like, how do things map out on a timeline? You actually use that word quite a bit. And I also heard a constant back and forth between introverted intuition and extroverted sensing. Like you said, I do have a long-term plan. I do like the idea of innovating, but it's very hard to narrow down. And that's you probably heard of the co-pilot dynamic. Everyone avoids their co-pilot and goes to their 10-year-old. So what happens for what can happen for ENTJs is like the struggle is to actually slow down. Like earlier you mentioned, you want to get things done in the moment. That's TE and SE working together very well, but it's like at the cost of the long term.
So this is like where I said I'm in a transition, and people don't want me to slow down, kind of, because like they want me to stay down, and I'm like, no, I got to go to NI and like really kind of plan for what I want to do and stop going into that SE all the time. Like that's where I feel I'm at in a way, because like, and that would make kind of sense. And it's like other people don't like that, because if you slow down, it kind of means growth is coming. And that's what I was trying to explain. I think I said I'm riding a wave and then crash. And it's like, okay, that's because there's a wave bigger than that one in a way. Does that make sense? And like, I feel like I'm trying to retreat into my NI a lot now. Like that's kind of why. Does that make sense? Did that happen? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, and that's where the growth is for you and ENTJs in general. It's like ENTJs, and I think you as well, are very good at getting things done in the moment at the cost sometimes of the future. And I mean, that's for you to judge, but you used phrases like, I don't really put a timeline on it. I always have a little plan, just not on a timeline. And that makes perfect sense. It's like, and you are very aware of it. Like you use a lot of like phrases that are like NI oriented, like future oriented. Yes. But the struggle that you described when you want to put on a slideshow with three slides and it's going to be 27, that's like the struggle is the narrowing down, and that's what NI does. And that takes time. That's why it's called introverted intuition. It's a slower function. Like the introverted functions are the slower ones. And that's why for every extrovert type, the real growth is in the introverted co-pilot, because like every extrovert has that dynamic of like going from the driver to the 10-year-old, because that feels better because it's in the same attitude, like from extrovert function to extrovert function. And introverted intuition is the function that gets you to slow down and ask questions like, what are the long-term implications of this? Like, what is the meaning of this knowledge? And all the things that, all the longer term things. And that's really where you are an intuitive type. Like that's where the power is for you as an intuitive, like the long term. And it's like, yeah, that's the co-pilot thing. And that's why it's so powerful for everyone when looking at the co-pilot. It's like, yeah, I want to stop talking for a minute and hear.
Oh, no, that was good. I get it. I get what you're saying.
Cool. Yes. So, and then there's behind the co-pilot is the 10-year-old, and that is called sensation or extroverted sensing. And yeah, like you already said, that's the present moment stuff. That's like being really in tune with what is happening right now and what needs to be done right now. And often that's also what is really needed. But for you, it's a 10-year-old, like in terms of like skill level, if you work on your NI, that is like, if we look at it at skill level, that's like when you work on that NI, that's like the growth will happen. The SE, it's like, yeah, let me first explain. So that's like real-time kinesthetics. So people who lead with SE, they are constantly living in the present moment. That's also why, like, I don't think you're an ESFP. Like for ESFPs, there's a different struggle. For them, it's actually like that there's like so much perceiving and living in the present moment that there's not much planning at all. The way they talk is different. The way there's actually like more of a like anxiousness about the future. And I didn't hear that kind of.
Yeah, I get what you mean. And I feel, let me know if this is true. Would they try to simplify things a little bit more, but it's kind of sloppy sometimes, or just missing things in a way? I don't know.
Yes, and it's like,
because I'll be honest, those are the types I've gotten mad at work. Like, because they like, it's like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. I don't want to use the word cringe or something, but like, it's kind of like, am I wrong or right? I don't know if that's true.
yes, and as you say that, what comes up for me is like how often you talked about systems. Like you want to set up systems to make your life easier. That's what TE and I working together well is basically, that's it in a nutshell. Like TE, like being really in tune with what other people think and need, but not on this emotional level. It's on the getting shit done level. And then with NI, it's like, how do I make my life easier? How do I narrow down? How do I create the systems?
And then do I feel lazy when I go into NI? Is that what it is? I can feel lazy doing that sometimes. And like,
yeah, that's all extroverted. It's like there's like this judgment coming up of like, am I doing enough? And also when you described like it get, I don't know what the phrase was, but I think the word boring came up. Like it gets a little boring, right? And then your SE is like, I want the next new thing, which is also fine, but it's like that's in that dynamic. Like it's sometimes, I mean, all ENTJs have that, but sometimes what happens is like you'd rather go to another, create a completely new system from the ground up, SE, than look at the system that you already have and refine it. It's like the refining part, that's the NI, and that gets a little boring because that's like an introverted function and that makes you slow down.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, let's go to the 3-year-old then, which is a feeling function. So it's the opposite of the extroverted thinking driver. And it is, yeah, what you described. Let me see, what did you say? I don't like an overly emotional reaction in other people. That's also like all thinking lead types have that. TI DOMs have that as well. It's like you don't want all this emotional crap. You want to just like either get shit done as a TE lead or as a TI lead. It's like you just want to make sense of things. And emotions actually complicate the thinking process. Like when you're emotional, it's like you get like it's more difficult when there's emotional people around you. And you also said, I don't know them. I don't think I've ever heard an ESFP say, when I ask, what's your relationship to your emotions? I don't know them. I mean, there's a little bit of that because the co-pilot aversion, but yeah, like the way you described that. And you also described that I learned to not just say what I think, like working on emotional intelligence. That's also like, for ENTJs, that's the great thing with slowing down and getting into that NI, because this NI function is very good at just understanding where people are coming from. And that is also for ENTJs, first and foremost, it's like understanding that they have emotions and that they are different from like me as a person. Like I as an ENTJ am not very emotional, but there are other people who actually need that emotional component, and they need like emotional validation. And then actually realizing that, getting into that NI can help can help you maybe with ESFPs and understand where they are coming from more, and then like almost like getting them on board with their feelings more. And yeah, that's that dynamic. And yeah, but I forgot to describe, like that's it's so yes.
You said you forgot to describe, and for some reason it cut out. I'm not too sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, it just said it's unstable. Yes, so for you, the 3-year-old is called authenticity or introverted feeling, and it's an introvert function. Again, it's a slower function. Like people who lead with this function, they are the ones that, like, for them, they can't, they almost, it's very difficult for them to do something that is not in full alignment with who they are. And obviously that makes it much more of a struggle to get things done. Like they're much slower. Everything has to be in like full alignment with who they are. And you will have a component of that, but it's like your focus is more on the getting things done than on the constantly asking yourself, oh, is that resonating with me on a feeling level?
I find that like if it comes to authenticity, like especially now that I like talk, I couldn't put something out if I knew I was like lying, kind of, like, if I really was yeah, it's been hard to talk about type until this session gets done. This session kind of actually helps me like verify that like the information I'm putting out isn't going to have to get like redone because it was so wrong. Like, do you know what I mean? And really, that's like the truth, because, well, I actually, when I got typed as an ESFP, I knew it was wrong. I was like, this isn't true, you know? And I told the guy, I was like, you don't want to tell people who think like me to go get deeply in touch with their feelings. And I don't know, it's really interesting with that. It's like, if it's in the bottom position, I can get that because like, that's one thing, but like, I don't know, ESFP didn't like really make sense like that. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. And I almost want to say like, it was the Valtology guy, right? So, I mean, if you just type based on visuals, then that's actually like, I would imagine, I mean, I'm no expert in that field. I mean, I looked into it a little bit, but it's like, there's so much like TESE and SET. It looks so similar. Like that was the second type I had in mind for you, but it's like, it doesn't make sense in certain ways. Like for me, the big picture has to fit, and then every function in every position has to fit. Like for each function in each position, I checked that for you. Like you are leading with TE. A lot of people who have tertiary TE show up like you, but a lot of people with, like most ESFPs are much more in tune with their emotions. Like they have a different struggle. Like, and then the way it shows up, it's like they can show up very similarly, but ultimately, yeah, there's no doubt that you're an ENTJ.
I've seen what you're saying.
I can see where people are coming from who say ESFP, more so than people who would think you're an INTP. Like,
really?
Yes, like, but that's also because like this is done through cognitive functions, and I did not pick up much NE or SI from you, nor did I pick up FE, TI. Like the axis was clear quite quickly, but then it's about like where in the car do they fit, and yeah.
So, yeah, no, it does actually. Like, I said I thought you were going to do INTJ. I did think you were going to say INTJ, and then, but ENTJ is pretty close, I would say, like cognitive function wise, I guess.
Yes, and like yeah, when you say that, an important thing to keep in mind is like the way, yeah, how do I describe that? Like the letters are one thing, and then the cognitive functions are another thing. Like if you resonate with introverted energy, like it just, INTJ doesn't make sense for you for many different reasons. Like the functions in those positions, like you're not leading with an I can see that quite clearly. Like that would mean like TE would be the co-pilot, and I can't imagine telling you working on your TE. Like you're just real, it's like your flow state. And it's like every person needs the time in their flow state. And like throughout the session, it was obvious that you get that time, and it's like your natural gift, that TE. Like
yeah, I mean, I wake up at
function is like
3:30 in the
natural
morning and go to the gym. So I guess like, yeah, when you put it that way, it's like I do find time for it, you know?
Yeah, so it's like, it's more like, what is your lead function? And then your lead function is an extrovert function, more so than you being an extrovert. Although given the letters, you are an extroverted type, but it's more because you lead with an extroverted function than you being an extrovert, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah, like because ENTJs can be kind of introverted and like, right, yeah.
Yeah, I think like from all the extroverted types, they tend to be the most introverted. Like I've had like quite a few ENTJ sessions where it's like, I can't be an extrovert. And that's because like they are like a lead thinking function, and they don't need people to get stuff done. Like effectiveness is your own. Theoretically, you could achieve things by yourself all day. Although for effectiveness, it is really getting people on board and getting stuff done. But like for people who lead with harmony, you can't really get that just by yourself. But like for like people with TE and an I in the front of their card, there's a strong resonance with like introversion often. And yeah, so yeah, and for INTJs it's like, because for INTJs it's like NI-FI, there's a lot of like going back and forth between that, and so they are much more in tune with their emotions, which brings problems and advantages with it. So yeah, I don't see you having FI in the tertiary spot either. Like, yeah, it wouldn't make any sense.
I'll be honest, I trust you because like it's hard to see yourself. You know what I mean? Like it's harder to type yourself than it is other people, I think.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And even more so when you're leading with, like when your introverted decider function is at the bottom, that makes it even more difficult. Like if FI or TI are the 3-year-old function, that can be like,
There's flexibility, kind of, is that why?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, and that's another dynamic, like when you slow down and get into your NI, you will automatically also get some access to your FI and like the emotional component. Like there's also this dynamic. There's the dynamic from the driver to the 10-year-old, and there's also the dynamic between the introverted functions. So there's something happening when you look at like, it can be like, I mean, this is simplified, but looking at timelines and slowing down, or looking at the meta, there's something happening that will also get you more in contact with your introverted feeling side.
No, I get that, because like I said, I think that's kind of where I am right now in a way. And it's like you explaining that, it's like, yeah, that's kind of what's happening, I guess. Like I would say. And then, like I said, when that cycle is done, it's like when I go kind of. It's like go back to the dominant probably. And it's like I know it'll happen. It's like you kind of got to prepare for it.
Yes. Yes, and even a little bit of the other way around as well. Like when you get into, like which is quite difficult for people who have FI as the 3-year-old, but when you get into like, what do I really want on a personal level? Some of that narrowing down can happen as well. Like what you described as the struggle. There's something like asking yourself a question like, does this really, what matters to me? What does really matter to me? And then sometimes what can also happen is like a little slowing down in that, and then suddenly things narrow down naturally as well.
Yeah, I can see where you are coming from.
So you cut out there.
Oh, I said, yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Anything else that comes up?
No, you were pretty thorough with the explanation, so that was good. No, I guess that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I wrote down a few sentences as well. You used in this session. Go into different angles with it and keep building. That's also like, that's very, I mean, INTJs say that too, but INTJs and ENTJs, there's a strong focus on building things. Like you used that, I think in the first session you talked about it as well. And then from the ground up, that's DSE, like wanting to build systems. And then, yeah, it's easier to build them than to maintain them. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. What you want to be done needs to be done. You said that in this session as well. Like, yeah, that's the effectiveness. Yeah.
Interesting.
Let's see. Yeah. Any questions that come up?
No, not really. I was just gonna say I could get a copy of the recording just to.
Yes. Yes. You will. So in the next, I think, 48 hours, so someone else from Personality Hacker will send you an email with the links to these recordings, and also you will get access to the ENTJ starter kit. So there will be more information on the type and what to do with it. A lot of it will be similar to what I just talked about. And yeah, and then I think it's also time to, you will also need a little bit of time to process it, since it's a different type from what you thought you were. So
Yeah, so what I was gonna ask you, because also like told you I have a YouTube, and then you can say no, but like, can I share my typing video, or would you not like that? Like just
if it was for me, I'm perfectly fine with it. I would have to check with the company. So
I would I could, if you want to relay the message, I'll put your guys' name in it and stuff. But like, I'm gonna have to tell my subs, I'm like probably not an INTP.
yes. So I mean, yeah, I'm not too optimistic about. If it was just for me, I would say yes. But yeah, I will let you know. I will talk to.
Yeah, don't stress out over that. You can say no.
Yeah, I will let you know. I will ask. Yeah, I don't know. There's probably something I'm not thinking about right now that would make it a no. But yeah, I genuinely have to check with. Yeah, I guess the business manager, and then yeah, I don't have any problem with it. Like, I also want to know what your channel name is.
Cognition Ignition.
I want to check it out.
There's a lot of INTP videos, but I talk about my shadow functions in it all the time, so it's really interesting. Like,
yeah, and I guess you get like the usual YouTube comments. Oh, you are this type or that type, or like, like oh, you are not this type. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm happy. I actually, and I would love it to be out there and see the comments and stuff. So yeah,
I know that's been what I'm thinking, and it's like, because you did a really good job with the questions and stuff, so like people would really get to see like this is how like we went into it. This is like we went pretty deep, I think. Yes, but.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Yeah, let's hope. I want to see the reactions and stuff.
I know it really would.
That was so. I mean, and you get that stuff on the internet, but I don't mind it. Like,
yeah, you know, like part of it is like people are gonna say things either way, and I mean, you're pretty like you did a good job, so it's like, but like, if the company doesn't want you to, that's fine too. I found your channel, I think, because you've been on Joyce Mang's, right? You've been on her thing.
Yes, my channel, as in which channel?
I don't know. You were in an interview, maybe, and maybe it's not your channel, but you were
okay.
in another video too, with some guy. And I've heard your podcast on Personality Hacker. Like I knew you more than you knew me going into it.
Yeah, cool. All right, let me stop the